Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to this week's Transformation Thursday. This is Transformation Thursday, week 134, 133, 134. And I am Abena. Thank you for being here this evening. Super exciting topic that we have this evening. We have Miss Lachette of Scarlet Moon Creations, and her topic this evening, shadow work and shadow care with tarot and oracle cards. So it's such a delightfully witchy topic. So let's just dive right into it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Like you said, my name is Lachette. I have a Etsy shop, Scarlet Moon Creations, and I make bath and body products, but I also do offer tarot and oracle card readings. And with another friend of mine, we do some shadow care, shadow work events, and we have one coming up later this year. And the topic for today's Transformational Thursdays dovetails with that, and that's shadow care and shadow work with tarot and oracle cards. And I guess a little bit more background about me is that I've been reading cards for a little over 10 years, I think, and maybe 4 or 5 years professionally, but I mostly read for myself and occasionally for family. And this way of reading cards and using cards helps, I think, with those of you who might be interested or new into tarot and oracle, but maybe you don't know where to get started, or it's opening a path for you where you can read for yourself. You don't have to find a professional, and you don't have to have memorized all of the cards in the tarot and know what all of the meanings are for all of the esoteric symbols and things like that. So I hope this is helpful to you. Please, at any time, leave comments. I believe we're live on Instagram, and if you want to chime in or raise your hand in the Zoom live, you can, or you can leave a comment or question in the chat for the Zoom if you're here as well. So first, I just want to go over what you'll get, I guess, in this talk. I'll give you a basic idea of what tarot is, what tarot cards are, and then what oracle cards are, the difference between the two. Then a basic definition of shadow work, and followed by a basic definition of shadow care. So we're just dipping our toes in. These are all very broad topics, so I tried to niche it here for this talk tonight. After that, I want to give you an idea of how tarot cards and oracle cards can help you with shadow work and shadow care, and some examples personally and things you can find online. And then a little bit about decks and finding the decks that work for you. And lastly, I'll just wrap up really quick with the retreat, the shadow care retreat I'm co-hosting if you are interested in. Okay, so if that sounds good, stick with us. Okay, so am I able to share my screen? Or
Yeah, so I will make you host and you can just submit any coming in.
okay. So I guess while you're doing that, I'll just intro what tarot is. So you can see behind me, I'm sitting here, I have all of my decks, or most of them, here on the shelves on the wall, tarot and oracle. So tarot cards are a 78 card deck. If you've seen, what do you call them? Playing cards, they have like 56 cards and they have the 4 suits. So with tarot cards, there are 78 cards, and there are the 4 suits, the 56 cards. And the 4 suits, instead of what you're used to in playing cards, you get cups, wands, swords, and pentacles or coins, depending on what deck we're using. And you can see some of those on the screen there. There's also the court cards. We have page, knight, queen, and king, rather than just the 3 in the playing card deck. And then in addition to that is what they call the major arcana, which is 22 cards. They are archetypes of human life that human beings have come up with. And these cards can be used for divination purposes, but they don't have to be. I know that some people, because of their religion or their personal beliefs, have some trepidation with regards to tarot cards, but you do not have to use them for divination or for fortune telling or trying to divine the future. There is a self-care, a personal development aspect to them that particularly in today's times is very popular. So there are various different decks that have different themes. There are those with, what do you call it? Faithful or herbs or what have you, things that you can pick that you may know better than the cards I just showed you. They might imagery might speak to you more. So don't be caught off guard by this basic type of deck. So the next thing I want to talk about are oracle cards. They are different from tarot in the fact that they do not have a set 78 cards. Each oracle deck is different, a different number of cards. They have different themes. They don't have the 4 suits, the minor arcana, the major arcana. They can be used for divination purposes. The creator will tell you what they intended. And there are tons of different types of oracle cards, like affirmation cards, study decks for like astrology and other things. There are messages from spirit or deity or angels, your subconscious. All of that is possible and beyond with oracle cards. So that being said, does anyone have any questions or comments? I just want to check in to make sure.
No questions, but you've got some people on Facebook tuning in.
Okay, great, awesome. Okay. The next thing we want to talk about is shadow work. And this is an idea that was brought to us from the psychiatrist Carl Jung. And it's really popular, but it's part of his whole theory about what is the human psyche and how our minds, our psyches, our souls have several layers. So Jung believed that we have the ego, the personal conscious, and the collective unconscious. And I particularly wanted to mention that because I know recently there was another guest here on Transformational Thursdays that talked about the Akashic Records. And that is in some cultures what they call the collective unconscious. The idea that we as human beings have this unconscious, almost instinctual idea of certain things or beliefs in certain things or certain symbols that just we all identify with. And it's not something we're taught, it's not something we learn, it's just something we know from within ourselves. And the personal unconscious is, well, before I get to that, the ego is our conscious self, the part that is, awake and aware, our personality, what we show the world, what we project, and the okay, sorry, someone else came in. Uh, and it's the conscious, when you're conscious and what you're doing is usually active and purposeful. Now, your personal unconscious is between the collective unconscious and your ego. And that is one easy aspect of it to think about is your sleep. When you're asleep, dreams, your unconscious mind is telling you things. Quite often, people say that dreams, for example, that's when your mind gets a chance to deal with all of the stuff that it didn't have a chance to while you were awake. And we love that, right? Or not. Sometimes they are nightmares. Sometimes they're weird. But also, Carl Jung says within that personal consciousness is the shadow. And the shadow is something or some things, an amalgamation, a collection, if you will, of all the things we don't like about ourselves. The stuff we push down, we push aside, we repress for whatever reasons, things that we don't want to know about ourselves, that we don't want to deal with, and negative behaviors that we have that we probably don't even realize are affected by these things in the shadow. And this is not to say that we're bad people or that anyone is a bad person. We're just humans. And that was the point that Carl Jung was trying to make, that there are all of these facets of ourselves and we need to integrate them. Excuse me. So shadow work is you finding out what are your shadow aspects and bringing them into yourself, making them brought to light, not putting it off. And this will supposedly in turn help you get rid of those negative behaviors, get rid of that or deal with that negative self-talk. Um, not repress things, not have, these potentially traumatized parts of yourself come out at random times. It's shadow work is said to help people deal with their anger issues, since anger is said to be a secondary emotion. It's the one that you hide behind when you're hurt or sad or feeling vulnerable. We automatically put anger first. And it's not, again, a conscious decision, it just is. And we all have these things. Some of them are things from our childhood, which we've forgotten because we live lives and you grow up and more memories come and more experiences and you forget things. Some things are repressed. Some things happen when you are young or at other times in life and your mind or your soul can't really handle it fully at that point in time. So you push it aside. Or we live in this society today where it's like we have to work, we have to be practical, you have to take care of the physical, the conscious self, and you don't really get time to decompress, to deal with your emotions and how you feel about things. And so things layer up, they add up. There's also societal pressures, right? There's things about like the way we're supposed to look, the way we're supposed to dress, the way we're supposed to speak and act, and in various situations, how you're supposed to be when you're in a relationship, whether it's a romantic one or a familial relationship, how we relate to people on the street. Personally, I have a personal theory about those of us that live in big cities, and particularly big cities that are small square mileage wise, but there's a lot of people in a small amount of space. So you're interacting with so many people in a short amount of time. You can't really process everything that has happened. And so, like, New Yorkers have that we don't care, mind your business attitude and personality type. And it's my opinion, because we see so many people and so many things happening every second of every day. It's hard to process. So you just got to keep moving because that's what society says you do. So shadow work might be able to help you with that. I want to say here, I am not a psychiatrist nor a psychologist. I know that this Jungian idea, just psychology, is a thing you have to be trained in, and I am not. This is basic things that you can do for yourself. You can do these things with a professional psychologist or psychiatrist or a therapist if you would like to. That's fine. I'll probably repeat that several times. This is not something you have to do alone, but this is something that I'm aware, many people are aware, that having a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist is expensive, and not everybody has that access. It also is expensive time wise, and you don't all have that access. So, this is something that you can incorporate into your life on the daily, on the monthly, or every once in a while to help you grow as a person. One of my favorite content creators always says, take what resonates with you and leave the rest. This is not, I'm not trying to push anything on anyone. It's just, if it sounds good, maybe try it out. If it doesn't, there's something else out there, right? This talk is, like I said, hyper focused on tarot and oracle with shadow work. There are other ways to do shadow work. So, checking in, does anyone have any questions about shadow work? Because I know that was a lot.
No questions. Was there, were you sharing your screen? Was there something on the screen?
Oh, yes, I do have.
Oh, it was kind of blank.
Oh, sorry about that. This it's a lot, the whole psychology thing. So I just want to check in and make sure that everyone who is watching, just you can put it in the chat or you can unmute wherever you are and just let me know that you understood what I was talking about with the shadow work. Can I get a yes?
Yes. Yes, yes.
All right, thank you guys. So I'll talk about shadow care. Now, these two should go hand in hand. What I just talked about with the shadow work, it's a lot. It can get really heavy. When people go to therapy, there's this thing called like therapy hangover. And that's because they just talked about things or they dealt with whatever issues, right? They handled some of their issues and it was heavy. It was a lot. And oh, we have a hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, so is there something on the screen now? Because it just says, what is shadow care?
Yeah, that's all for this one. It's just
Oh,
this part because I
okay.
looked up after. But do you want me to pull it down for now? Because I am small.
Yeah, because all people are seeing is like red.
Sorry about that. Okay. You know, I did have a note that said lower the slides at this point. Thank you for interjecting for that.
No problem.
So shadow care can be a lot. I wouldn't recommend starting out with your super heavy things. You know what your traumas are. Usually, those are the big things. Something happened in your life, and you know probably you're repressing it. You might not know what it is, but something's there. And maybe it's recent, or maybe it's something from your childhood. That doesn't matter. Um, Confronting those things is scary. Uh, it's it hurts quite honestly in some cases. You also maybe confronting, let's say, negative self-talk, which could be like, I don't know how to do this, or I can't do that, or I'm not qualified for this, that, and the other. And that sounds very simple, but when doing the shadow work and you're pulling cards or you're asking yourself questions, it's like, well, the responses, the answers that you get back from yourself are a lot. When you start digging deeper and deeper, you see, where's this coming from? Why do I have this idea that I can't do this? Or I don't know how to do that, or I'm not qualified, or whatever have you. And it's not quick or easy. There are consequences, and quite often, like the shadow shows up in your life in a not so great way. The example I gave earlier, I think, was like anger as a mask. Um, or maybe you talk to people rudely, or you project on others where you see something in yourself. And afterwards, or even during, you need to take care. This is part of the shadow work. But I wanted to highlight that it's something that needs to happen. We're not here to beat yourself up for having a shadow. It's about reintegrating it, accepting it. I hope that makes sense. Go ahead, Bina. Bena, you have your hand raised? I don't think she realizes. That's okay. Um, so this kind of thing is hard to do alone. That's why I mentioned earlier that you can do it with someone else, a professional. There are therapists, psychologists that do other than talk therapy. Uh, Many are willing and do purposefully include things like tarot and oracle cards. Did we have a question?
No questions at this moment, just viewers.
Okay. And okay, so when you're doing shadow work, you want to prepare yourself before, during, and after. You want to take care of yourself. Okay. One quote I really like is, the darkest of shadows are created by the brightest of lights. So you can't have a shadow without some light. And that's all within us. So again, you're not a bad person. We're just a human being. We're all like this. All of our shadows are different, but we're all like this. We all have shadows. Self-care is important, and particularly afterwards, you want to kind of prepare what you want to do so you don't have to think about it. And also important is self-acceptance, being non-judgmental, and having support as well. Okay, so once again, checking in, did the shadow care section make sense?
Yes, thank you. Understanding that that's the part that we don't really want to look at. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay, great. And all right, so now we'll talk about how the cards can help you with shadow care and shadow work. Right, so there are many different ways, and I can't go into detail about every single one, but while I show you some cards here, they can help you identify aspects of your shadow. They can help you clarify those. They can help you look for the bright side of said shadow. It can give you a starting point for what to actually do to integrate your shadow. They can help you decide how to take care of yourself after your shadow work, the shadow care. You can also work with your guides, deity, or spirits through this practice if you want to make it a spiritual one. It can help you clarify your thoughts and your feelings. You can use them as journal prompts or answers to questions. You can meditate with them, and they can represent various aspects of you and your shadow. So the reason people use tarot and oracle cards in general, really, but also with shadow work and shadow care is because a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? We've all heard that. Sometimes, or quite often, really, when we're talking about inner things, right? The stuff that's not tangible, the unconscious, the subconscious, that kind of thing, words are not enough. There's not enough words in the English language. Some other languages might have the proper words or phrases, but even they, in and of themselves, don't quite fully express what you're feeling or what you're thinking or what you've experienced. And so people will pull cards to have a visual. This is why I say as an example, you can use these with your therapist or with your spiritual advisor, if that's someone you're working with, or a family or friend who you trust, who you are okay feeling somewhat vulnerable in front of. If you can't express yourself verbally, you can show them a card as an example. Like, this is how I'm feeling. This is what is bothering me. This is, the energy that's inside me at this point. And quite often, because of the archetypes, the symbols and things in tarot and in oracle cards, they might understand easier or quicker and help you work through that. But it's also, again, like I mentioned, something you can do by yourself. So when you're expressing those emotions, sometimes we can't even talk to ourselves clearly enough. Like, you're trying to integrate your shadow, and in the beginning, it feels like a whole separate person. I don't know that person. I don't want to talk to that person. I don't want to look at that person. But that's the whole point of shadow work and shadow care. So y'all might not speak the same language, but it's still you. So you use the images on the cards to express that. Right. So I'm going to give you a couple examples, and please excuse if any cards are showing the, what is it, reflecting the light here. This is getting dark. I have my ring light on. Okay, so I'm going to show this one first. This is the 9 of Swords from the tarot. And this, if you can't see it very well, is a woman sitting up, head in her hands, in bed with 9 swords on the wall behind her. Now, in tarot, swords are air and therefore the mental areas of life. And this card, this is probably one of the first cards I identified with in the tarot, because this is me. This is way too often me. I know this card so well. I didn't need a more modern deck or a more esoteric deck. Like literally, this happens to me quite often. My thoughts are like knives in my head, sometimes keeping me up at night, other times just making me feel despair throughout the day. So, like, you just want to relax, you want to be comfortable, but these knives are just driving you crazy. It's your thought, it's your mind. And as an example of shadow work, I would pull this card out because I know what this card is, and I would put it up on my desk or something and just look at it, because I'm facing this aspect of my shadow. Why is my brain like this? Why does my brain do this to me? What is the problem? How can I stop doing this? What is the root cause? These are all questions that I ask myself and possibly journal about. Or I will pull cards from the rest of the deck to answer said question, right? And another example I have here is the Emperor. And this is a realization I had recently. Let me see, can I get him to not be? There we go. Right, so the Emperor is this older man sitting on a throne looking very authoritative, right? This is something I realized recently. I'm not really like that. And quite often I probably should be. I hesitate. I pull back from pushing and demanding my due. The Emperor also stands for order, structure, and doing what needs to be done to get things done, to take care of who he needs to take care of. He's a ruler. He's the leader of an empire, I'm assuming. And I do not have kids or that kind of thing. So the only empire I need to take care of is me. And I do not always do what I need to do. I do not always follow the not rules, but the laws of Lachette, right? Putting the structure in place and following the structure, the rules, the laws that make me work at my best, right? One of those things is shadow care, so no one's perfect. I hope that if nothing else, you get from this video or in this talk. And yeah, so with this card, what I would do is, since I know this now, I will pull this out put it on my altar or on my table, my desk where I'm working. So I see it as a visual reminder, Lachette, you need to take care of yourself. Lachette, you need to do what you're supposed to do so that you can be a better you, so that your day has structure, so that your business does well, and not shy away from what needs to be done. Do this and not this. Don't let thoughts and ideas and maybe negative self-talk get in the way of making things happen, right? So again, you can journal about these, or this is like visual reminders. That is a simple way of doing shadow care. Here's another card, the Hierophant, and again, I think can I make him focus? I cannot. Sorry for the glare, guys. But it looks like a pope, and quite often for many of us pagans, we don't particularly like this card because of that. I don't have as many issues with organized religion as some of my friends do, but I do side eye a lot. And so that's a shadow. What I would do if this card came up, I would probably maybe be shuffling the cards, and it's like, what shadow or what aspect of my shadow should I deal with today? And if this card came up, I'd be like, okay, put it down and maybe pull some other cards to, again, ask myself the question, like, where is this coming from? Why do I have this reaction to this card? This card has not done anything to me, obviously. And I see we got some questions. Bernadette?
Yes, hi, Lachette. I wanted to ask you, what does okay, I don't remember the name of the card, but what does that card represent? What does it mean?
Not the one I'm holding up right now?
Yes, the one you're holding up right now.
Oh, that is a very good question. Thank you for asking. So the Hierophant is like organized religion, basically. It is the I'm trying to think of the words. Learning in a organized way, having a teacher or or mentor that is more schooled in these ways of thought than you are, particularly towards a spiritual aspect. So this is kind of like the church card is what I quite often think, where the thing about organized religion is they have many years, a structure, a way of passing down their traditions that is very specific and very organized. I don't know another word to put other than that. And there's less leeway for bending, for thinking outside of the box, though not always necessarily so. But as a individual figure, this card usually represents someone, like I said, a mentor or a spiritual leader who, like I said, has that experience, who can lead you down your spiritual path because they have been through certain things and they can pass that on to you. And it is structure in that more masculine active aspect rather than, and when I say masculine, I don't mean man or male. I just mean, like I said, active rather than passive or doing things, projecting and sharing that learning rather than taking information in. There's a High Priestess card, which is like they're like a pair with each other, and the High Priestess is that more feminine, passive, unconscious, like spiritual aspect, where you are learning from yourself and from your world around you. You're not being taught by someone how, or guided by someone. You're guided by yourself and your intuition and maybe your collective unconscious. So I hope that makes sense. But that does, with that explanation, I hope that it makes it clear why, for me and quite a few other people who are not into organized religion, might have a not so great reaction when this card comes up. And like I said, I don't have like a shrinking away or a flinch or anything like that. I don't have any particularly personal bad experiences, but it's still like looking at the world and knowing other people who have I have some doubts. And so why do I have doubts is something I would ask myself if I pulled this card. What's going on? Why do you feel that way? Where is that coming from? What experience led to this? Because your thoughts and feelings don't just pop up out of nowhere, right? That's the point of shadow care. Following the path back to where these things came from and then dealing with it. Right? It's not just knowing, oh, okay, well, it's also, well, how can I integrate this? Right? I don't want to be walking past, every priest I see on the street and rolling my eyes. That's unnecessary. They didn't do anything to me, right? There's no need for me to have that reaction. So, not that I do that, I'm just saying as an example. So that is another way of doing some shadow care. Well, I want to share some oracle cards. I have some cards from the Fairies Oracle, which is one I've had for a very long time. Like I mentioned earlier, the oracle cards are not as structured as the tarot, or they're not structured like the tarot. So it's a much more intuitive reading. You can't just find out from any website or book online what these cards mean. And quite often the meanings with oracle cards are a lot more varied person to person than with tarot, right? Before I go on, did anyone else have a question or comment?
Not that I can see at this time.
Okay, awesome. All right, so this card here, let's see if I can get him to focus. Focus. This is Indy, and again, apologies for the glare. Can't see him very well, but I have washi tape over the titles of these cards. I'll explain why later. So this pink stuff doesn't come with the card. The Indy is someone I again understand intuitively, because he, at a kind of base level, can represent indecision. right? He has got two balls here, and you can't see his face very well, but he's having a hard time deciding. Uh, he looks very confused, and that's something that happens to me. Too many choices, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. And what I could do with shadow work is pull this out and again, sit down and ask myself, why am I like this? All right. And it might take several questions. The other thing is, it's not one and done. You don't do shadow work for one aspect of your shadow and then, oh, I'm healed. That's great. Wonderful. Let's celebrate. I don't have problems anymore. That's not how the world works. That's not how shadow work and shadow care work, right? One thing for me with this card or being indecisive in some ways is that I do see that as a negative aspect. And remember, I said with shadow work, it's not just things you're repressing. There are things you don't like about yourself. And this is kind of one of them. This is not a major one for me, but it's there. And when it comes up, I kind of get frustrated with myself, and that's not helpful. Who likes to be frustrated? So trying to work through those feelings and coming up with another way of reacting when I feel indecisive, giving myself permission to be indecisive. My brain can only handle so much, like everyone else's brain. When there are too many choices, it's hard to narrow things down, especially when, as a society, it's like you got to be quick. You got to decide. You got to make up your mind. We don't have all day. If I'm in a restaurant and I get a huge menu and I don't know what I want before I walk in, I'm indie. And like the pressure to just pick something is there because, oh, the waiter has to wait on other people, and the people I'm there eating with, they're waiting to put their orders in as well. Everybody wants to eat. Why are you taking so long? Da, 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 da. Meanwhile, no one has said anything to me. No one is looking mad or frustrated, right? So it's like, you don't have to feel badly. This is an understandable situation. Let me think. Oh, so some happy examples, right? Because again, it's not all gloom and doom in the shadows. Some things we don't like about ourselves because we feel like we shouldn't. This is the Friends card. I love this card. They are very happy and weird, and that's okay, right? And one guy's carrying the other here. And this, not a huge thing for me, but I love my friends. I want to drop everything and do everything for my friends. I also love my family. I know some of y'all are watching. Please don't feel left out. Okay. But there's somehow in my head this idea of like, well, and I know where it comes from. I'll get to that. Friendships are not as important as family or a romantic relationship. But over the years of thinking about that, I'm done some shadow work and I'm like, but wait, why? Why is that the case? Like when you get a significant other, like they are first, they are the significant other person in your life. And it's a romantic and probably sexual relationship. So now automatically those people come first. And that's fine, whatever. But like, do I just like my friends less? Do I not want to hang out with them as much? No. Do I not want to support and help them through their lives? No, I'm not trying to be best friends with every single person in my neighborhood or even in my house, but like, where does that come from? Society, because society says that, hey, you know, if you're too close with your friends, now your significant other has to be worried because something else might be going on there. There ain't nothing going on here. I'm gonna tell you that now. It's like, in a lot of cases, we've known our friends longer than we've known our significant other. We have all of these things that we have done with them, experiences that we have had. And it's okay to love your friends differently, but just as much as your significant other. They will be your other significant others, if that made any sense. So, okay, I'm gonna show you guys some other oracle cards. And before, again, I want to check in. How are we doing? Any confusing parts? Any questions?
Everything's cool over here.
Awesome.
Everything's cool with me too.
Everything is making sense, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. So some other things you could do self-care wise. I have this other oracle cards. It's the Color Mage Oracle, and these are just cards with colors on them. Very simple. There are titles on the bottom and then small little phrases as well. And one thing for self-care you can do is grounding. And I did that before this. I will do it afterwards. Grounding is in something where it's you're like you have a lot of energy, a lot of either nervous energy or frenetic energy, and you need to settle. You need to ground yourself, send it into the earth, diffuse it. If you think about lightning striking dirt, there's, you know, the earth does not take on the lightning. It doesn't spread like, let's say, metal does. It doesn't conduct lightning. So that's why lightning usually is coming down from the clouds to the earth. There might be some other things in the way that get hit, but that energy stops once it hits the ground. So that's like what grounding is. And you can meditate, you can say chants or mantras, however you need to ground. Some people need to literally go outside and touch grass. That's what touching grass is about originally. Tree hugging, and sometimes if you can do that, you got your cards. And for me, grounding was the wise owl, which is inner wisdom and foresight, and the peach, which was, excuse me, open certainty, right? It's just something to relax my mind and chill. And I didn't know what I needed. I just shuffled the cards, and what came forth was these two, and they made sense to me. I like color, and that's why I have this deck. Sometimes that's all I need. Other things are too crazy. There's too many images on the card, too many things to look at. So I don't go into all of that. Okay. Next, I'm going to share my screen again to show you guys some spreads that you can do. Now, the first spread I have here is one I created myself, and I do offer readings of this. It's the self-care spread. It's 4 cards, and then the video here I'm using the Fairies Oracle that I've been showing you. The first card is how are you feeling currently at the moment? The second card is where do I need self-care in my life? Like what area of my life? The third card is why do I need self-care at this moment or in this area? And the fourth card is how can I do that self-care? And that is very simple, very short, very quick spread. And you can do this as your shadow work or as your shadow care after you do shadow work. So before I go on, spreads or tarot oracle card spreads are when you use several cards in a row together. They can, some people put them in various shapes because that helps them, again, visually. You can find tons of spreads online, on Pinterest, YouTube, and that kind of thing, or you can make up your own, like I did for that one. The next one is kind of like I was talking about earlier, where it's like a conversation you have with the cards. So I've got that 9 of Swords, and I'm like, well, why am I feeling this way? Obviously, I'm feeling that way. And then the next question is, where is this coming from? And what can I do about it? And lastly, maybe I'll ask an outcome question, like, where's this going? Okay, you can change their questions, you can add more cards, and I pull cards depending on what the response from the previous card is. So that's why it's like a conversation. And again, this, when I say with the cards, that's me kind of personifying the deck. It's not necessarily that. It depends on what your beliefs are. If you believe the cards you're pulling are coming from yourself, your unconscious, then you're having a conversation with yourself. Or some people believe they are from some deity, god or goddess, or Mother Nature, that kind of thing. Others believe that some spirits are speaking with them. And when I say spirits, I don't mean like ghosts and that kind of thing. I mean more like a general term, angels or devas or fairies, like in that particular example. And if that's something you believe in, those might be your spiritual helpers. Others feel like spiritual guides. They have personal guides that they talk through with the cards. And this is all something that helps them with their shadow work. This last spread is just a 3-card pull, and I'm going to use 2 decks with this. So I use an oracle deck as like my focus question, being like, what shadow area do I need to work on? And then with the tarot deck, I pull a card that asks, first, how do I let go of this? How do I release it? And second, what do I bring into my life so that I'm working on this shadow aspect of myself? So, did all of those make sense?
Yes. And I wanted
Thank
to say
you.
something to you. I wanted to let you know with the oracle, I do believe it was the oracle with the colors, that they are behind you, the purple and the peach,
Oh,
either side of you.
on the flowers. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even realize that. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so last but not least, I'm gonna talk about picking the right deck for you. So maybe you have decks already, that's fine. Some people don't feel the decks they have or the decks they see, like the one I've been showing here. This is a more traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and some people don't feel drawn to that for whatever reasons. So I'm just gonna show you some decks you can use for whatever might draw you in, because there are tons of decks nowadays. So you don't have to settle on the originals, as it were. You can get a modern deck with modern imagery. There are various multicultural decks with people that look like us, right? With Asian people, with Hispanic people, with Black people, with young people, diversity in age and spiritual practices. You can get a mass market deck or an independently published deck. This one is also culturally or racially diverse, but it's closer to the original Rider-Waite Smith. You can also get decks that are more closely aligned with your spiritual practice. This deck, the Afro-Brazilian Tarot, has Candomblé as its, what do you call it? Foundation. You can pull decks that do not have people. That's a thing that I realize works better for me. This one is an herbal deck. This one has these weird creatures. This Deviant Moon Tarot, some people like darker decks for shadow work. Other people feel that things like this Moonology Oracle is better because shadow work is hard and they want, good feelings. Or an affirmation deck like this one, where it's positive self-talk that is right in front of your eyes and very modern. Many people have financial issues and need to deal with them. Other interests like astrology, color, and angels. There are decks about the Mother Mary if you want to do that. Baseball, other sports. So it's not just a thing that maybe woo-woo or something only women might like. This is, you can do this with a deck that you are drawn to that works for you in some way, shape, or form. Or you can get a deck that repels you. And they say that when you get a new deck, you want to look for the cards that you like the most, but also the ones you like the least, that really puts you off, because the one that repels you, that means there's something there. There's something in your shadow that's just like, you don't want to deal with that. You don't want to look at it. You don't want to handle it. And that's probably something you need to do some shadow work on. And it's the same thing with certain decks. And ultimately, these are tools for personal growth and care, right? You want to be the best you that you can be. And that is an ever evolving individual. It's about self-awareness and self-acceptance. Like I said, you are a work in progress. So that is my talk about shadow work and shadow care with tarot and oracle. Did anyone have any questions or comments?
No, I did not.
Okay. I guess
I
so.
like how you, oh, I'm so sorry.
What were you saying?
Me? Oh, I was saying that I like how you made it very simple in breaking it down, because I took a tarot class once and I just didn't get it. So thank you for that very simplified explanation of some of the cards.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I tried. I know it's a lot. And it's something that for some people is a lifelong learning process, the tarot cards in particular. And this is a practice. You don't have to memorize the meanings of the cards for Like, it's daunting thinking about, oh, I need to know what 78 cards mean. Otherwise, I can't. That's neither here nor there. When you're reading for yourself, for you and your self-improvement, rules go out the window. The cards mean what you think they mean, and they don't mean what you don't think they mean. This is a personal relationship between you and the cards and whatever you feel is pulling them out for you. And again, if certain decks don't work for you, you move on. If they do, you use those. There are so many decks out there now, independently published, and like I said, so diverse that there's no need to stick with the tried and true way of doing things. Bernadette, you have a question?
Yes, I do. So when you're reading for someone, I was getting when you read for yourself is one thing, but when you read for someone else, are you asking them, do the cards mean something to them? Or are you telling them this is what this card means and then ask them if it makes sense for them?
A little bit of both. And again, a little bit probably or maybe extra something else, like I mentioned, spirit guides or deity and things like that. Depends on their beliefs. When you're reading for other people, having an idea of what the cards mean ahead of time is better because you're kind of the go-between. You have to translate, and having nothing to say because you don't have an idea of what this card means makes it harder for them to understand. Particularly since most of the time people do not have an idea what they think the card means. They're not used to looking at a picture and intuitively deciding what it means. Some people are, and I don't want to say it's surprising, but it comes up. And they sit down. Some people read cards for themselves at home, and every once in a while they want a professional reading or just someone else to read for them, if it's like a friend or something. And so they know the meanings of the cards. Or they're just a person who is in tune with their own subconscious and not afraid to let a tarot reader know, well, this is what I see. And you just go with it, because who am I? This reading is for you. Who am I to contradict? I can maybe add to it, but you're the go-between there. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So there are no other questions. I just want to leave you guys with a last thing about the shadow care retreat I have coming up. It's September 29th to October 1st. We'll be up on Camp Olmsted. That's in Cornwall on Hudson in New York, about an hour and a half up the Hudson River on the west side of the river. And if you are called to continue doing some self-care and shadow care and shadow work, you are welcome to join us. And here's our contact information. You can email my co-host here or check out the Facebook page event. And during this retreat weekend, there'll be a little bit of tarot and oracle, journaling, meditation, astrology, and rituals like a cacao ceremony and that kind of thing. And plenty of time for you to relax and enjoy the nature around us as well. Because again, shadow care, we're not trying to overwhelm you. So if you would like to find out more, like I said, you can email willowmoon@yahoo.com or go to the Facebook event page here. You can search Shadow Care Retreat 2023. I also offer readings and with tarot and oracle cards at my Etsy shop, Scarlet Moon Creates. You can follow me on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. I forgot to put that on here as well. Uh, if you would like to see more, I do post readings and things like that on there. So guys, thank you so much for watching. And thank you so much for having me here on your Transformational Thursdays. It's been
You're
very interesting
welcome.
watching them, and I feel blessed to have been included.
Oh, thank you for being here, and thank your mom also.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, thank your mom.
Thank you for hooking us up.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And where in the Bronx are you located?
I am in Morrisania, but I don't have like a
Okay.
physical shop. I just have the online shop. If I do readings in
And
person, it would be at Bronx Witch HQ. If I
yes, okay, okay. Yes, that's the Bronx, the headquarters for Bronx Space, which is okay. Do you, besides the retreat, do you have any other classes coming up?
Not any other classes. The only other thing I have is a talk tomorrow, a podcast for talking about um, the summer solstice, and that is
Okay.
a funny way of looking. But yeah, I don't have any other classes coming up at this moment in time. Well, actually, no, that is incorrect. Sorry. I forgot. I do have some Reiki classes coming up, but I've been doing those one-on-one via Zoom, but I can do more than one person if necessary. I am a Reiki master, so I am allowed to teach Reiki and pass it on to other people if they so choose. So you can contact me if you would like to learn Reiki either for yourself or to share with others as well. If you need Reiki,
Thank you, Lachette. This was very informative. I appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Absolutely. And thank you for being so sleek with the presentation and having your social media information present. Thank you very much for that. So I expect people, people always come in for the replays or they ask, oh, how do I get in touch with this person or this speaker? So thank you very much for that.
You're
And
welcome.
I am grateful that you took the time to share this information about tarot and shadow work. I know that someone watching really benefited from it and really appreciated it. So I thank you again for being here.
I
And
hope
so for
so.
everyone, this was, yes, absolutely. So this has been Transformation Thursday week 134, I think. Just a commercial this Saturday in the Bronx at 1716 Southern Boulevard is the Soul of a Man Part 2, the Men's Holistic Healing Day, and save the date for Saturday, January 24th. That is the Bronx Yoga Summit, the largest yoga gathering in the pit. We have 8 teachers speaking on, not just speaking, but leading yoga classes, 8 different types of yoga. So I'm trying to find a nice little yoga outfit for that day for all the different classes. The marketplace is available. It's not just a yoga event, it's also a wellness event. We welcome intuitive workers, we welcome intuitive life coaching, and I love seeing the cards. So our marketplace is open. So anyone who's interested can reach out to me about that event. And I'm here to help bring enlightenment and share holistic healing in the Bronx. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being here for this week's Transformation Thursday. I'll see you all next week, 7-ish sometime, and I will post the next week's topic a few days before Thursday. But thank you all. Thank you for being here. And you can watch the replay on Bronx Holistic Healing, my Instagram, Bronx Holistic Healing, or on my Facebook page. Or on my new YouTube station also. I'll
Yeah.
probably post it tomorrow. I finally got a YouTube. Okay, everyone, thank you for being here. And remember, if no one told you, remember that you are a spark of the divine. Take care.
Love that. Love that. Have a
Thank
good night.
you.
Good
Good
night.
night.